It's a really, there's so much in there.
Yeah. Because it's sort of toward the end of that speech, what grabbed me is that, outside of these walls, he may meet a judgment of his own. It kind of sounds like he's talking about some sort of, divine judgment.
Yeah.
But, obviously he's probably talking about himself.
Yeah, he means me. He's, yeah.
And, like that's interesting because if you are a religious person like Matt Murdock, that is probably the two sides to morality in your eyes, the law and then divine judgment, right? So if it doesn't get prosecuted within the confines of the law, it's all fine. He's going to meet divine judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And, tying into, Matt's conviction and his thoughts about himself and his place in the world, thinking that he's, a savior chosen by God to help these people. That's a very interesting contradiction about how he knows that there's going to be no divine judgment, and that it's up to him. And he, it's at the end of the day, it's the only reason why any justice is done is because he made it happen.
Mm. And there's the added layer of specifically that he ends up becoming called the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and then he adopts that imagery. It's like, and that direct contradiction with his faith, and the conversation that we get later in the season about do you believe in the devil? And it seems to be this thing of he necessarily has to damn himself to provide that justice. He must kind of sacrifice his own soul, if you want to kind of put a fine point on it. There's something that he's giving up, perhaps his humanity. You said it earlier, right? He's giving up his own humanity to exact this justice because it can't be done within the confines of the existing systems.
I think we should maybe say anytime we say soul in this series, it's like a shorthand for moral integrity or I don't know. Is there a better word for that?
I guess what we mean is the idea in storytelling of, you have two kinds of jeopardy. Usually you have a mortal jeopardy, and then you have damnation as the jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And Matt's real struggle is damnation in his own eyes, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of his friends. He is constantly picking and choosing where he is willing to damn himself.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, with the classic example is Silence of the Lambs, or Clarice Starling. She damns herself to get the job done by forsaking the beliefs in the systems of the FBI and all of these things. And she damns herself by getting help from Hannibal Lecter and by playing into his hand. But she does it knowing that it could be the break she needs. And so when we say soul, or his soul's on the line or something like that, we're really talking about for that character, their internal reckoning with themselves. For me, when have I gone too far, and when can if I do this, can I ever forgive myself? Is usually what we mean when we say okay, well, it's really a question of they're putting their soul on the line. If they do this, they will never forgive them. They think they can never forgive themselves.
Don't you all know that religious aphorisms are tools for storytelling, guys? Come on.
Duh. Haven't you read Young? Isn't that just how all stories work? Yeah, exactly. Something that did jump out to me as well is that idea of face a judgment of his own making. His own making is really interesting, where it deflects the creation of that judgment onto Healy's actions. But to the jury, the way that it sounds is this guy's going to have to reckon with himself. But what Matt means is he's given me no choice.
Yeah.
It's a really clever. It's really clever. I think it's really a complicated, multi kind of layered thing that's happening here. It's all just centered around Matt as well. Everything about that speech sort of comes back to him in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. That's what we've been saying, man. This show is so tight, man. It's just everything, as is the case with all the shows we love. It's like an Indra's web. Everything just connects to everything. I guess it's really intently interested on. Yeah, it's really interested in the things it's talking about, And so it's constantly about those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a real characteristic of stories that tend to work really well, is like, and you can have like a continuity that changes what it's interested in, right? Like some of the latest seasons of Breaking Bad change what they're interested in about Walt and Jesse and their relationship to the criminal element, and their understanding of their place in it. I think particularly after, I want to say it's like the end of season 3, where Jesse makes a decision to kind of like to damn himself to save their lives, and that changes Walt and Jesse's relationship to the criminal element and to what they're doing. It suddenly it goes from like, oh, this was a way to make money, to like, this is our lives now. And
Right,
so you do get those shifts of like the thematic lens, but it's always about the same thing. Yeah, it's really impressive how, I mean, you even have like, so Karen is offered hush money basically by Union Allied. And just in the constant Karen way of like making everything worse for herself, she goes and talks to the widow of Daniel, her coworker, who she was accused of murdering, and sort of is like, I can't let this go. And this woman who clearly already signed the hush money, like took the deal, is like, I don't care. Like, you need to just leave me alone and let it go. Like, what are you doing? And that's what spurs her to go and talk to Uruk about it. Who also has the most dire life of anyone in this show. Like, it's so grim, his setup. Do you want to speak to, I guess, like Uruk and like, I guess, how you see him fitting into the picture?
Did I already make the No Country for Old Men comparison? I think I did.
You did, yeah. Yeah.
So I think, Wisecrack has this really interesting take on, or like this video on that movie, about how they think that the three protagonists of that movie are like symbolically protagonists from different eras of Western movies. And the Tommy Lee Jones's character is as if you just took the protagonist from a classic Western and dropped it into a neo-Western. And obviously those two ideologies don't gel. And so he's just really confused at like the sheer like sort of evil and uncomprehendable evil that he sees in Anton Chigurh. And I feel like it's kind of similar with Ben Urich. He's, you know, he has that conversation with that Italian mobster at the beginning. And there's that really great line, you know, it used to be that when you killed someone, you sent his wife flowers. Now they just send your wife with you.
Send your wife with you, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just this like really like unbelievably formidable opponent that Ben, this old school reporter who's been chasing Italian mobsters, is suddenly up against. It's just like this really like colossal, monstrous sort of endeavor he has before him.
Yeah, and he's not the guy he used to be. Like, you know, he's like haggling over like different insurance policies and stuff to try and get his wife the care she needs. Like, you know, his boss is like, everyone we know is making, you know, triple what we do writing blogs in their underwear kind of thing. Like real journalism's dead, dude. Like, you're the old guard and we keep you around because we respect you, but like, you know, your work is done. And then off the back of that, Karen comes in and is like, hey, I read your article. And he sort of goes, oh, the fluff piece about the subway. She's like, no, the Union Allied corruption. And you kind of get this moment of like the old guard is called back into action, right? The retired gunslinger has one final job. And those of us that understand how these things go know where Ben's story is going to end. Almost immediately, I'm like, this isn't good for him. Like, he did need to leave this fight. This isn't for him, but it's like, I think Karen is what spurs him into getting involved.